Hello, dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new tea class with me, Stéphane Erler. I'm the founder of the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com tea boutique. Welcome to a new tea class. We continue our history lesson about tea and Taiwan. We started last week about the president's tea, the tea from Fushoshan, a high mountain oolong that is really one of the top, one of the finest high mountain oolongs in Taiwan, and it comes from a plantation that has linked to the Nationalist Party and therefore became the president's tea. I told you all about this in a previous class, and this gave me the opportunity last week to give you a class about modern history of Taiwan. Today I wanted to use three objects to delve into the old ancient history of Taiwan, about Formosa. And the first accessory that we're going to talk about is this jar. I closed it with a cup. Hello, Elizabeth. Glad that you are there. So this jar is quite interesting because it tells us something about the history of Taiwan. I will be with you in a moment about that. I'm also going to make some tea that conveniently is one of the new Baozhongs from this spring, and I've stored it in this jar. And so really it is a jar that can be used to store tea. Voila. And the Baozhong is going to be our second item that we are going to use to talk about history. And the third item is this postcard, which is also the vignette of this video, a postcard by Hokuzai, and we'll talk more about it. These three items, the jar, the tea, and the postcard, are going to help us better understand three different episodes in Taiwan's ancient history. So I hope you are ready. We are going to drink some of my Ingzhe Hongxin Baozhong from this spring. I'm already a bit thirsty, so let's start by making some Baozhong. Voilà. What distinguishes Baozhong from high mountain oolong is not just the shape, the aromas also are quite different, even though the taste of high mountain oolong has influenced Baozhong in the last few decades. So Baozhong has become less roasted as a result, but because of the terroir, the soil, and the climate, the aromas of Baozhong are a little bit more zesty, a bit lighter, fresher. Maybe not fresher, but yes, they have like a little citrus taste that adds a pep that you don't find in high mountain oolong, which are rounder, more mellow, more buttery, as often comes out. And also what is interesting with Baozhong, there are lots of different cultivars, much more than in the high mountains, where it's mostly about Jinshuan and Qingxing oolong. In Wenshan, we will see later, there are many more things. Now, this tea jar at first was not a tea jar. What was it? If you have followed my blog for a long time, you know that this is actually grenade. It was made at the end of the Qing dynasty, at the end of the Ming dynasty and early Qing dynasty. This period of transition is when the Manchu took over China from the Ming. The Manchu were a tribe more from the north. Already in 1644, they were able to conquer the capital of Beijing, but they did not pacify the whole country. It took right away. It took them almost 20 years to conquer all of China. In the beginning, the Ming Emperor, he fled to the south, a bit imitating the Song dynasty, the North Song dynasty. They fled to the south and were able to continue in the south for over a century, if my memory is okay. But the Ming were not so lucky. They gave a good fight. They had some generals who fought for them. One of them is Zheng Chenggong, also known as Koxinga in Taiwan. And this general is very important because he was fighting in the south, so around Guangdong and Fujian. He made these jars over there. He used them already on the sea for to battle against other ships. They were designed so that they were glazed inside and out to be very waterproof, so that when you put the powder in it, it would not become wet, and it would work. You need dry powder in order for the bomb or for this grenade to explode. So imagine you put your powder in it. You just need a fuse, light it with some fire, and then throw it, and it would explode and make some loud noise that would scare the soldiers on the other side, and also make some people hurt, those who are close to it, because the pottery is not metal, but still it's quite hard and quite thick, and when these debris explode and you are close to it, it can really hurt you. Especially at those times, you did not have good armors. People in the south of China did not wear lots of clothes, so it would really be a terrible weapon to use. And when Koxinga saw that the whole of mainland China was about to be lost, he decided to take on Taiwan and the Holland army, which had a fort in Tainan. It's called Zilanda, and in order to win against the Holland army, who were colonizing Formosa at that time, taking over from the Portuguese, he used a lot of these Anping jars. That's why they are called like this, because we find a lot of them in Anping, which is a coastal village very close to Tainan, and also very close to this fort where the Holland army had its headquarters. And after a battle fought over there, that was one of the very first where an Asian army was able to defeat a Western power. Actually, Koxinga, this Ming general, was able to retreat to Taiwan from China and had his plan to help the Ming emperor first to regain his throne in China. So his idea was to reconquer the lost ground in mainland China. this story seems a little familiar. It's because it's almost the same story as the one from Chiang Kai-shek, who had to retreat to Taiwan and wanted to plan for conquest of mainland China after the defeat. But in both cases, actually, it did not pan out. With Koshinga, it was even faster that he lost. So he was still quite young, but suddenly fell ill and died as he wanted to expand into the Philippines, which are south of Taiwan. And in the meantime, he had crowned himself emperor. So actually, there was no chance for the Ming emperors to come back to the throne. He wanted to be emperor instead of them. But as said, this his army then, once he died, was not up to the task against the Qing armies, and therefore, after Koshinga lost his life, so after 20 years of ruling Taiwan, this piece of land came back to the Qing dynasty, and gradually more and more immigrants from mainland China would come to Taiwan, sometimes finding better opportunities, escaping the Qing rule, which did not like so much to do trade with the Western foreigners, which led to the Opium Wars, the forceful opening of Chinese ports, the purchase of Macau and Hong Kong. So this lots of tensions between China and the Western world, but in Taiwan it was a bit more peaceful because it was so far away from Beijing that things were a bit well, they could fly under the radar. It was not the main concern of this Qing dynasty, which was ruling in Beijing, so in the very north of China, and the Manchu tribe being more northern tribe. So they did not pay so much attention to Taiwan. Now, what happens next has something to do with our number 2 artifact, which is Baozhong. And when we look at Baozhong, we recognize from its shape that it is very much like Oolong Yansha, which is very first type of oolong invented in China. And this shows that there was a lot of connections between Fujian and Taiwan. Culturally, also a lot of immigration. That's why the dialect spoken in Taiwan, called Taiwanese sometimes, actually is also called Hokkinese, which means Southern Fujian dialect. And we can see this. We can see the influence from Fujian with the leaves of Baozhong that very much look like the leaves of Ui, and the process is very much the same. Of course, now this is without roast. In Ui, they continue to roast. But this is only a change that happened in the 1980s, 1990s. In the 19th century, from the look of it, Baozhong and Ui tea would look very, very similar because both were oolongs, so more mature leaves, not like green tea, which are picked very young. And also both are roasted and single leaves. Very nice. Baozhong is a name of a process. Actually, it's not a name of a cultivar. We saw in our class about wheat that lots of names come from flowers, from sometimes their appearance, like by Jiguan. They can also come from the name of a place, or sometimes a legend, like the red robe, Darong Pao. But for Baozhong, it's simply the name of the process of how the tea is wrapped. So Baozhong was kind of invented in the late 19th century, and the very first Baozhong plantation was in Nangang, close in western Taipei. So this is number 2 item that here shows a connection between Fujian and Taiwan, and Baozhong became then a tea that would be sold as oolong to the west, or with flowers scented more to Southeast Asia, where there were Chinese immigrants with connections in these countries. Now, let's do a second brew. We can. And by the way, so we see that the economic growth of Taiwan is very much due to the fact that it was a place where you could do a bit more tax evasion more easily than on the mainland, because the farther you are from the capital, the less regarding the Qing dynasty bureaucracy was. There were more traders in Taiwan, and they felt that it's easier to do business in this on this island with lower taxes, low tariffs. Still the same game. But the Qing dynasty was dying out, was weaker and weaker, and sometimes when it becomes too weak, it invites violence and aggression, and this happened with our next item, this postcard. Now, if you look on the vignette, you will see it closer than here. Now, this is a postcard made by the famous artist Hokusai, who is most famous for his portrait of a large wave coming down, and on the top it looks like there are lots of almost horses that are coming down. Now, what we can see, it's written at Tea Garden at Suruga by Hokusai, compliments of Formosa Oolong Tea. Now, isn't that Mount Fuji? And the Tea Garden Suruga, that sounds more like a Japanese tea garden. Now, why is it written compliment of Formosa Oolong Tea? Here again, where you would put the stamp, it's also written Formosa Oolong Tea. How come? What's the link between Formosa and this Japanese artist? And it's written in English. Why? That's also a bit unusual that a Japanese postcard would be written in English. Well, this shows that we are now between 1895 and 1945. During 50 years, the Japanese ruled over Taiwan. So the Qing dynasty was not in a great shape. They had to relinquish Hong Kong to the British, Macau to the Portuguese, and the Japanese thought, we are even more hungry. We'll take the whole Taiwan. One city is not enough. We'll take the whole Taiwan. For us, it's an island that can complete our islands of Japan, and so they occupied Taiwan for 50 years. And during these 50 years, they helped to promote the brand Formosa Oolong Tea, taking here the old name from the Portuguese Formosa, and it's also here we can see postcard. So using a postcard as a marketing material. No, I think your host has the same idea that I copied from them to use postcards here for my marketing. For my own marketing. So this is an original idea that I imitated from the Japanese. I'm not Okuzai, but I can take nice pictures, I hope. and so this postcard is really a testament to these 50 years of Japanese occupation of Taiwan and the promotion of the concept of Formosa Oolong Tea. One of them was Baozhong, and Baozhong was able to participate in the competitions at the World Exhibitions in Paris and in Milan early in the 20th century, and was of course so tasty that it would win prizes over there. And we can see that the Japanese, they were helpful to promote a separate brand of Formosa Oolong Tea, not just Japanese tea, not just red tea, which they would also develop in Taiwan, especially in Sun Moon Lake. And on the east coast, they would call this company Jedong, Je like the Japanese, and Dong in the east, the day of the east. This sounds a bit like Lipton, Jedong, but they did not just develop red tea, they also developed Formosa Oolong Tea, this brand, and used the artist Hokusai to make different paintings from Japan and from Taiwan to show the beauty of these tea fields and the beauty of the landscapes, to help the customers in the West get an idea of that when you are drinking these teas, it's like traveling to these faraway lands, mysterious Asian lands. And indeed, when you are drinking tea, it helps us to imagine we are far away from our desk or from our home, but we are sitting in a field in Pinglin, overseeing these hills of forest, of subtropical forest, and contemplating maybe the sunset on these hills, sipping on some Baozhong. And also maybe thinking about this long and complicated history of Taiwan, first discovered by the Portuguese, given the name Formosa, beautiful island, then occupied by the army from Holland, then Koshinga, the Ming dynasty general who took over, who defeated the Holland people, and the Qing dynasty then taking over, but not enough force and control, losing it to the Japanese for 50 years, and then the rule came back to China, which controlled it from 45 to 48. Then the nationalist army retreated a bit like Koshinga to Taiwan, hoping to defeat and take back the mainland. So far, it has not happened. So, an interesting history that rhymes sometimes, that repeats itself, and we see that tea has been part of this history with this jar, with this Baozhong, and with this postcard. So I hope it was an interesting class for you to refresh some of these old memories and put them together and see the complicated, the complex history of Taiwan through the lens of tea. Thank you very much for your interest. Go to see the lots of new high mountain oolongs that are on the website, and see you next week for another tea class.